And joining us now is Christian Ziegler. He's a Sarasota County Commissioner from District 2 and the Vice Chair of the Republican Party of Florida. His wife Bridget serves on the Sarasota County School Board. And Eric Deggans is the national TV critic for National Public Radio. He previously served as a TV media critic for the Tampa Bay Times and has also reported and done editorial roles for 20 years at the newspaper. He's the author of the book Race Matters, How the Media Wields Dangerous Words to Divide a Nation. Christian, let's start with you. I think it's pretty clear that Tallahassee is moving toward banning critical race theory in the state. Why do you think that's important?
Well, I think parents have drawn a line this year, and parents have made it very clear that they are concerned with the education of their children, and that comes from forcing masks, shutting down schools, but also during COVID when they were doing online schooling and they were home and schools were shut down, parents were able to see what the curriculum was. And it drew a lot of concerns for parents. I mean, I've had the concerns for a much longer time than since when COVID hit. But parents want the right to know what their kids are being taught. And all they're asking for is a seat at the table to be able to review materials, review textbooks, but then also not have these kind of discussions and these, frankly, personal opinions being imposed on these children when the parents aren't around. Me as a dad, I have 3 young girls. I want to have those conversations with my kids when they're ready. I don't want to force those conversations when they're too young to absorb it. So that's why I think Tallahassee is addressing this. It's something that's been discussed a lot in the press, but also by parents on the streets and homes across the community, and that's why they're addressing it now.
Eric, what do you think about the ban, the possible ban on critical race theory being taught in K through 12 schools? What do you think?
Well, what I don't understand is if this is about parents, then why are state legislators sticking their nose in what school boards and teachers are doing across the state? If this is about parents having a voice, our current system allows parents to have a voice. They elect school board members who then make decisions about what the curriculum is in the school districts where their children attend. And if they have issues with that, of course, they can speak to the school board members and kick those school board members out of office if they think they're not doing their job. I don't understand how a legislator in Tallahassee knows what my kids should learn in Pinellas County. So this explanation, of course, doesn't make any sense because that's not why this is happening. This is an attempt to outlaw the teaching of systemic racism in schools. And they're calling it critical race theory because it sounds like a scary idea. But critical race theory, that's like trying to ban astrophysics in high school. Astrophysics generally isn't taught in high school, and critical race theory, which is an academic theory that takes a look. First, it took a look at how legal systems were created in America. Then it expanded to look at how educational systems were created. And some of those ideas have been used to look at other systems in America, but it's a college level study. Nobody's teaching this in high school. Nobody's teaching this in elementary schools. What they are trying to talk about is the accurate history of America and how it is rooted in many ways in the slave trade and the oppression of Black people. And there are some people out there that have a hard time hearing those truths. And so they've concocted this critical race theory idea to create some sort of boogeyman to justify the state coming to local school districts and telling them what they can teach and what they can't teach. And I am flabbergasted that Republicans are supporting this. And I am flabbergasted that people are trying to explain it by saying that parents are asking for this because the parents don't have control over legislation that's created in Tallahassee and supported by the governor.
Christian, let's go back to you. Eric mentioned that this would result in not being able to talk about systemic racism in society. What do you say back to Eric?
Well, what Eric said is oh, go ahead. Sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
I was saying they're trying to ban the discussion of systemic racism in society in schools. That's what I said.
Christian?
So, Rob, here's the reality. What Eric said was actually fundamentally false. He said these are college level courses. It's not taught. And sometimes you hear these people that support critical race theory say, hey, it's not in the schools. Why are they doing this? Well, then why are they getting upset? Let me give you a real case example. There was a video called Brain Pop. Anyone can look this up. You can go on my wife's Facebook page. 2 years ago, this was a video that was available to people in 3rd grade and higher. Okay. Brain Pop is overall, it's a pretty good program, but then they have these tracks that kids could get to. And one of the videos was about Mr. George Floyd and the incident that happened with him. But throughout that video, let me tell you what happened in that video. They talk about systemic racism. They go through and they talk about how whites are more privileged and in better position than blacks. And then it goes through and it praises the BLM movement, the Black Lives Movement, which is really a political radical movement that's been hijacked and is frankly insane in these towns. And then it goes into praising the city of Minneapolis for, quote unquote, reimagining their police force. Let me tell you what reimagining their police force is. They literally defunded their police force. And then at the end, it tells 3rd graders that they should become political activists and tries to recruit them to become political activists. This was in public schools in Sarasota County for grades 3 and up, not to mention all of the training that actually occurs for staff. And in Sarasota County was picked up. This guy got hired for 5 training sessions. After the first one, all the staff went bananas over it. And it turns out he was teaching concepts of critical race theory to teachers to teach it to the students. Well, that was halted because that was found inappropriate. So this is occurring in our schools right here in Florida, right here in Sarasota County, in the Tampa Bay area. And what Eric is saying, that this is not in our schools, it's in college level. Last time I checked, the 3rd grade's not in college level. So that is not true. And our parents, and I want to have those conversations with my kids. I don't need someone putting their opinion or their spin on history to my kids without me being there. Now, I want to have those tough conversations.
Okay.
And I want to control them.
All right. Let's hear Eric's response.
I have no idea what this video is that you're talking about. But in your description of it, I didn't hear the words critical race theory once. So I have no idea whether the ideas that were in this video were actually critical race theory ideas. The other person you were talking about was going to be talking to the staff. So again, I don't really know what you're talking about. What I can tell you is that in my book, Race Baiter, I actually wrote about critical race theory. I actually interviewed a person who was a disciple of Derek Bell, the professor in Harvard, who created the study. So I know what critical race theory is because I've read a book about it. I've interviewed a professor who's an expert on it, and I've written about it in my own book. I would suggest to you that you don't really understand what critical race theory is, and what you're talking about is the discussion of systemic racism and how it works in America. And if that is what you want to ban from curriculums throughout the state, you should be honest about it. And we should have that discussion. We should not have a discussion about some phantom boogeyman that's been created by activists on the right to try to pressure governments and school districts and teachers out of talking about the way history has unfolded in America.
All right, let me move on. We only have and I'm sorry, Christian. Let me let you have the last word in the next segment. I want to ask you about the Polk County Public School District. They removed 16 books from its libraries last week. The district is now evaluating whether the books violate a Florida statute which prohibits the distribution of harmful materials to minors. A district spokesman said the books were removed after receiving a complaint from a group called County Citizens Defending Freedom. On the removed list, 2 books by Toni Morrison, Beloved and The Bluest Eye, and The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. And we're putting the full list of books up on the screen right now. And you can read for yourself the list of 16 books that are being reviewed right now in Polk County. Eric, let me start with you. There is a move around the country to go into K through 12 schools and get certain books removed from the library. What do you think think's going on?
Well, again, my concern is that books are being targeted that feature gay and lesbian subjects and authors, that feature authors of color, that are talking about society, talking about America, talking about sexual orientation in ways that make people of certain political persuasions uncomfortable. And if we're going to have that debate, then we should have that debate. We shouldn't, again, say that it is about some sort of sexual explicitness. We should say that we're having this debate because people are uncomfortable about the political ideas that are in these books and about the people who are featured in these books. And that's what bothers me the most. I mean, you know, you look at a book like Catch-22, which is a book that's taught throughout high schools across the country. There's plenty of violence in that book. But it's an important piece of literature. And it's something that, if it's taught well, is an important experience, an important scholastic experience for students. So again, I think the best thing to do is to have this debate at the local school level and have it honestly. Have it where we're talking about the content of these books, and we're not indulging in some sort of political, ideological scare tactic.
Christian, what do you think about reviewing these 16 books for content, especially sexual content?
So the 16 books that you showed me, I didn't get that list before this show, so I can't talk about those specifically. I can tell you there's a book. It's called Gender Queer. You go into that book, and there's illustrations. I mean, it almost looks like a kid's book. But then we start looking at the illustrations, and you start reading the little blurbs on each illustration. It's basically teaching whoever's reading it about masturbation, oral sex, and it's very graphic photos, to the point where some people have taken these to school board meetings where they found these books in these districts. They've started reading from it, and they've actually been shut down at school board meetings because it's too offensive or it's too explicit. Now, all we're saying, again, parents have a right to review this material and have it removed from libraries, so people like my children, 8, 5, 2-year-old girls, can't just go in the library, pick up that book, see these images, read this graphic content. I mean, literally, it's basically a porno with like a book cover on top of it. If you go read that book, and those are in our libraries that people have access to. And I'm just saying, and this is all the parents are saying that are out there, is we want the opportunity to review the content. And if we disagree, we want a process in place to get these books removed. And look, if parents want to go on Amazon and buy whatever book that they want to buy to teach their kids, they have a right to do that. They can do that. There's a method to do that. I just don't want my kids, when they're in custody of someone else from 9 till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, that they are not having access to this without me knowing it and without me having those conversations with them.
Okay, and this conversation is going to go on, but let me ask you a quick question. We have a minute left.
We're in a situation here where he's talking about some other book that is not on this list that you're talking about. I doubt that a 5-year-old is trying to read Beloved. I mean, come on. We have to talk specifically.
It's a cartoon showing.
We have to talk specifically about what books we're looking at and why they're being banned. And this blanket explanation that's being given, regardless of what the books are, that doesn't hold water. And we already have procedures in place where people can talk to teachers and talk to school board members if they're concerned about the books that their children are reading. Again, we are not having the right conversation. And if that's really your goal, then what you should be doing is trying to talk to the teachers in your school district.
Okay, and Christian, let me give you 20 seconds.
They're teaching your kids.
Yeah.
And to change it if you think they're doing something wrong.
Okay, Christian, 20 seconds. You get the last word.
Here's the issue. If I think they're doing something wrong, I'll talk to them. If they don't fix it, then I go a step up to the school board level. If they don't fix it, then I'm going to the state reps to get a fix, because I don't frankly care about the situation getting dragged out. I want to resolve the situation.
Okay.
That's how it works in our representative government.
Two really important conversations. We should have a 2-hour show. Eric Deggans and Christian Ziegler, thank you very much for coming on Florida This Week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Rob.